Welcome to episode 13 of the Tech Check. Before we begin, here's a word from our sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. It has creation tools that allows you to create and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. Anchor also distributes your podcast for you on multiple platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can make money with no minimum listenership, and everything is in one place to create a podcast. Download Anchor on the App Store or Play Store, or you can go to anchor.fm to create your podcast today.
All right, guys, welcome back to episode 13 of the Tech Check. Today we'll be wrapping up our little mini series by talking about all the other components like, motherboard, PSU, RAM, and cases, and then our thoughts about pre-built PCs. So, Vinay, what do you think about motherboards?
All right, so the Google copy paste definition of a motherboard is basically a printed circuit board containing the principal components of a computer or other device, with connectors into which other circuit boards can be slotted.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's basically like the backbone for where all your components communicate with each other, because that's where you plug in
Where you put
that's where you plug
everything.
in your
like
RAMs,
everything.
your RAM kit. That's where you put, your CPU, graphics
So you
card.
plug in everything except the stuff that you
Literally
actually
everything.
touch.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, so
the
literally
motherboard just
everything.
kind of allows everything to communicate with each other. So, yeah, I mean, it depends. Also, like when you're considering buying a motherboard, you got to make sure to know which processor you're getting, like AMD or Intel, because not like all motherboards are compatible with both AMD and Intel. You got to look for the chipset, like model or like what chipset it supports. So I think LG, if it has LGA in it, that's Intel, and then if it's AM2, AM3, or AM4, that's an AMD supported motherboard. So you just got to look for that when you're considering buying a motherboard.
Yeah, you also need to take in the motherboard size, like physical dimensions, because, you want to fit inside whatever case you're getting so you don't have a motherboard laying around in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean it's good to know size also in case you're planning to upgrade, like what components you're upgrading later on in the future. Because I mean, if you're planning to get, I don't know, like another graphics card to do like SLI, and you get like a mini ATX motherboard, it's probably not gonna. You're probably gonna have to buy like another motherboard or something, just because you won't have space to put it on there. And yeah, of course, case compatibility. Again, that goes with cases. Like cases usually supports several different sizes of motherboards, but I mean, if you're gonna stick with the mini ATX motherboard or an ITX motherboard, why would you get like a mid-tower ATX case?
Yeah.
So consider that.
Yeah.
Also, with motherboards, there's some other stuff that you're probably interested, such as Bluetooth, stuff like that, daily stuff that will come in handy, for
Yeah,
whatever day-to-day business you're taking care of. So that's always important to keep in mind when looking at motherboards.
yeah. Like for me, Wi-Fi was kind of a big thing, just because I'm not sure if I'm always gonna have like an Ethernet connection, just because of like where my whole setup is. Right now, I'm running on Ethernet, but when I first built it, I was running on Wi-Fi, so that's why I invested in like a Wi-Fi version of my motherboard. But also another thing to consider is if you're gonna overclock your CPU, because you're gonna need a good motherboard to support that. Unless, I mean, you're looking to like damage your parts or whatever. So you gotta
Hey, you
make
never
sure your
know.
motherboard supports overclocking.
You never know.
What about like the budget of a motherboard? Like, do they have like significant price gaps between them? Like, is there a reason why one motherboard might be like a lot better than like another one?
I mean, not really. Motherboards are pretty standard when it comes to market stuff, apart from, like the simple day-to-day features we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it depends. Like if I again, if you're gonna go for the whole RGB aesthetic,
Hey,
if you're gonna buy a motherboard that supports like Asus Aurora or ASRock Polychrome, or I'm forgetting the other one. But if you're getting a
Gigabyte.
motherboard that supports, yes, Gigabyte. But these
It's my
are
favorite motherboard.
these are RGB synchronization softwares. Like
make it
not,
look cool.
they're not manufacturers. Anyways, so yeah, if you're looking to get those RGB synchronization features, that could add up to the cost of your motherboard, or the
Because
actual.
lights are expensive.
Prothom loves lights.
Yes.
Hey, yo,
Guys, we
Love.
all
you
know
can't.
RGB increases FPS. If you say otherwise, you don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, it doesn't matter because RGB looks amazing.
Yes.
That's all that matters.
And it has been proven in the benchmarks that it significantly increases your FPS. I don't care what you say otherwise. Anyways.
All right, moving on from motherboards. Another pretty important, part of your PC is your power supply unit or PSU. That being said, there's not really too much to look at here. Just voltage stuff to make sure just make sure that you have enough voltage running through your PSU so that you don't end up frying your entire PC because you're gonna waste a ton of money.
Actually, it's not really easy to just buy a PSU. That's what most people think when they start building a PC. When they're researching just PSUs, they're like, oh, I just need to look at the voltage and that's it. Because it's not the voltage that you have to look for to make sure that it doesn't fry your PC. It's to see if it's actually certified. Because sometimes, when people, they're just starting off building a computer, they're going to go on review websites, obviously, to look for if a component's good or not. And for PSUs, there's a lot of review websites that put ambiguous awards for PSUs. So it'll be #1 rated PSU, but then in reality that PSU actually fails in all the safety measures that's required to actually run your PC without frying your motherboard. So you actually have to look really carefully as to which PSU you're gonna get to make sure it's not gonna fry your entire system, because it could be pretty bad. And another thing for PSUs with the voltage is that if you go on PC part picker or something like that and you put all your parts in there, it'll tell you the estimated wattage that you're going to use. So you need to have a little bit of a buffer wattage, I guess, because you don't want to keep it right on the edge. If your PC, I don't know, how it goes up to 500 watts, let's say, you don't want to buy a 500 watt PSU, maybe a 550 or 600 watt PSU, or maybe a little higher than that if you're planning to add more stuff. But yeah, PSUs tend to be something that people tend to not look very carefully, but you got to look very carefully into. Also, you got to consider modular versus semi-modular versus non-modular. So non-modular meaning you can't remove any of the cables from the PSU. So any cables you don't use, you have to stuff it somewhere in your case in the back. Semi-modular, you can remove all the cables except the main motherboard connector to power the motherboard, like the 24 pin. And then fully modular, you can remove all cables from the PSU, and you can use whatever cables you need. So that just helps with wire management and just keeping dust out of your case in the future.
Yeah, wire management is part of one of the many annoying things when building a PC. So if you don't like organizing stuff, it's always a good idea to look into either semi-modular or just a modular PSU.
Yeah, and also make sure you're getting an 80 plus certified PSU, meaning that it has 80% efficiency of output of whatever it's taking from the wall to your PC, just because those are actually certified PSUs first of all, and you're actually getting you're getting a good amount of power inputted to your PC. There's different certifications, 80 plus white, which is just 80%, 80 plus bronze, which I believe is 85-ish%, and then 80 plus gold, platinum, and then titanium, which just increased by 2% each. So you got to consider that. And then I guess the last thing I have to say about PSUs is that sometimes you'll get a PSU that ships to you dead on arrival, and it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's like a common thing, but it's not like an uncommon thing. So you sort of kind of should not be surprised if you get it dead on arrival. Just, just contact like the PSU, like manufacturer or like the company that you bought it from, and then they'll
Gigabyte.
yes, Gigabyte, and then they'll most likely, give you, a replacement PSU.
So, are there like any really good reputed PSU manufacturers that you guys know off the top of your head?
For me, I would go with Thermaltake, Corsair, or Be Quiet. Those are the ones that like I know. Like I have a Thermaltake PSU, so that one, I've been using it for like a week now, and it's still working, which is good. Did not come dead on arrival, and there's a ton of reviews on it on Amazon, so it just kind of gave me some peace of mind that a lot of people found it like good, and not just like really bad and frying their PCs. So yeah, I guess those three are like three reputable ones I know off the top of my head. I know there's like 2 or 3 more brands that are pretty reputable, but I can't remember the names.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. Next important part, that goes under miscellaneous, RAM storage, which is random
access memory.
Yes.
Thanks,
RAM?
Vinay.
What is RAM?
So
he's gonna just say random access memory again.
Yes, it is random access memory, but I'm pretty sure that it's like a form of computer memory that can be read or changed in like any order. And
Google.
Yes, this is literally Google. And it's a device that allows data items to be read or written in almost the same amount of time, irrespective of the physical location of the data inside the memory.
Yeah,
But I knows it by heart.
It's mainly.
Yes, guys, I memorized that from Google.
Yeah, it's mainly for like temporary storage of memory. So like, I don't know if you're storing tabs, switching tabs, or you're running, I don't know, let's say Zoom and I don't know, Google Chrome at the same time or something, or Discord and Warzone or something like that. That's really where RAM comes in handy. Also for like editing, like Photoshop and video editing softwares like After Effects and like Premiere and stuff like that. RAM can be really useful. You can get 4 GB RAM, 8 gigs, 16, 32, 64, and then you can get some insane amounts of RAM. But I guess for like gaming, 8 to 16 is pretty good. 32 is pretty overkill unless you're going video editing too and stuff like that. But I guess things to consider when buying RAM is, of course, I think all RAM right now is DDR4, so you don't have to worry about getting like older stuff like that. But you got to look at the speed, like if it's 3000, 3200, or 3600, usually people like tend to opt to get the 3600, but you could also get the 3200 and feel no actual difference because, although the benchmarks show that the 3600 is faster, obviously, but people who've switched from the 3600 to the 3200 and vice versa have said they haven't actually felt too much of a difference. So you could settle for the 3200 too as well. And then you also got to remember to, overclock, or not really overclock, but set, your RAM settings once you install it to like the actual speed in your motherboard BIOS settings to make sure, you're getting the bang for your buck.
Yeah. 21. I think probably wasn't your RAM running like 2100 the other day instead of 3600 like you bought it for or something?
Yeah, so I got like the G.Skill Trident like Ripjaw 5 series, which is 16 gig DDR4 3600, and I was looking at the BIOS settings because I was trying to like set everything up for my computer, and it was running at 2100, so I was like why? This is kind of dumb. But you can change the settings. You can change like the XMP profile to like 3600. So, I just did that. But it's kind of annoying. I have to go into the BIOS to do that. But I mean, hey, I did it.
Yeah. All
Too
right.
much shit about RAM.
I mean, nothing more really to say about RAM.
Yeah.
Moving on. Cases. Cases, I mean, and there's not much to say. You just get one that your motherboard fits inside. Well, get one that all your stuff fits inside.
Mhm.
You need to worry about airflow. So you need to make sure that you don't have things overheating and that sort of stuff. So you need to decide between air cooling and water cooling. Water cooling being exactly liquid cooling, water cooling. You know what I mean. But you need to make sure that you decide what type of cooling you want to do. I think right now water cooling isn't advanced to the point where it's actually better than air cooling. Both air and water cooling, I think, perform around the same level.
Mhm.
If I'm not wrong. So personally, I don't see why you wouldn't go for air cooling, considering that it seems like it's a bit less of a mess and easier to maintain. But
Mhm.
I mean, if you want to go with water cooling because it looks cool, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just make sure you have enough space for the radiator for water cooling, and you have like something to hinge it upon in your case and stuff like that. So I mean, it really depends on the space in your case, really, if it fits or not. So I mean, it really shouldn't be too much of an issue in like a mid ATX case. So like right now, I have the Phantom Eclipse P400S, and it's a pretty big case. Like I have plenty of space to put in water cooling, like the radiator up in the front. So like I could definitely put cooling later in the future. And then I mean, yeah, airflow is definitely a big thing in your case. You got to make sure that you have like a mesh front panel to make sure that you have air going out of the case from both the front and the back. Um, it also helps if there's like an opening at the bottom of the case for your power supply unit, so you don't have to put your power supply fans facing inwards to the case. Rather, you can put it outwards to the case, which is actually better for the whole cooling environment of your system. And I mean, you can get extra things like soundproofing pads, which my case came with. And another thing to look about, obviously, since it's a case, is I guess
RGB.
style and RGB, of course. I mean,
Always got to be
that's
RGB.
of course. I mean, what's a gaming rig without the RGB?
If you don't know what RGB is, it's literally just the shiny light things that makes every PC look super cool.
Yes.
That being said, you're gonna pay the big bucks for them RGB cases.
I mean, not necessarily. It's not that
Oh
much
no, that's for
expensive.
RGB RAM.
Yeah,
RGB cases, not so much. RGB RAM.
yeah. If you're getting like RGB RAM, RGB graphics cards, you're definitely paying a lot more. RGB case fans aren't that much more. Like, you can get one for like 15 to 20 bucks. Or, if you're going with Corsair, they have like really expensive ones, but those are really high quality ones. Like 90 bucks for like a pack of fans. Which is pretty expensive, but I guess worth it for some people. And then some very miscellaneous stuff in your case are like aftermarket stuff, like, an aftermarket cooler for your CPU, aftermarket LED controls, or like an LED controller in your case, so you can sync everything, like all the LEDs in one area in like a module. And the LED controller obviously has LED, so it makes the case look a lot more cooler. And yeah, I think that's it for like aftermarket stuff. I guess if you're
Yeah,
gonna buy another, like if you're gonna switch out your stock cooler, thermal paste, but that costs like what, 5, 8 bucks. So
yeah, no, to the thermal paste is not expensive, and it comes with some coolers anyway. So I mean,
hmm
yeah. That being said, all of the aftermarket stuff not really necessary. Like a lot of CPUs come with really good coolers as it is.
I
Like
mean
at
it
least decent ones that'll get the job done.
it depends, because usually aftermarket fans are a lot better for your system if you're definitely gonna overclock your CPU. Because it's not like you can't really overclock your CPU that much with a stock cooler, since it's meant to handle your CPU at like the normal like frequency. but aftermarket coolers just help you extend that threshold.
Yeah, so I mean, like I know the Ryzen 5 3600s cooler isn't that bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can overclock on it. That being said, you got to be a bit wary.
I
But
mean, you can overclock on any like CPU with a stock cooler, just not by much.
yeah,
So that's why people usually go for aftermarket coolers if they're buying an unlocked processor.
yeah, but again, most of the aftermarket stuff is if you're going to the extreme ends of PC building.
Yeah, yeah.
So they aren't. It isn't something you should be worrying about when you're building the PC, building a PC for the first time. That being said, if you're more experienced in PC building, then you may as well go for it if you feel like you're going to build, a higher end, more developed PC.
Yeah, it really depends on like what you're trying to get out of your PC and the style and everything, how you want it to look. I guess that's what you should consider for aftermarket stuff.
Yeah. And then we come down to our final topic-ish sort of thing, pre-built PCs.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
what do you think?
definitely not worth buying a pre-built. I mean, I know I've done like a lot of research on pre-built PCs, and I know I've done a lot of them with Prothom, and obviously the specs are unmatchable with custom a PC that you build. But also a lot of pre-built PCs are like scams. Like I know one pre-built PC like on Amazon, it said that it had like an RTX graphics card, but then when we looked at the reviews and
Yeah,
the
it had the
pictures that they gave, yeah, it had a GTX. So like
6060.
you could be getting ripped off. So going with the pre-built is definitely not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, a pre-built would probably be good if somehow all the specs in there are exactly what you want. And I don't really know in what situation a pre-built is actually good. Can't really think of one. But
If you're too lazy to build one.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's on the person then, because
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be dropping extra money.
Yeah, you're dropping extra money and stuff. I mean,
yeah, because labor and everything.
yeah, because like you can get like there are definitely good pre-builts out there. It's just like why spend the extra money for a pre-built when you can get a more powerful PC for the same price that you
Yeah.
make at you make at your own house or whatever. So I mean
You also don't get that satisfaction of building the PC.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I'd like to say about pre-builts is that if you're considering, if you're again too lazy to build your own, I'd say still just do it, because if you look at the pre-built, you're gonna see like it has a really cool looking case, and it has like a really high-end graphics card maybe, and a really good CPU.
The storage sucks most of the time.
But that's it. Like everything else, like the motherboard, RAM, storage, and like everything else in the inside of the case, they're not really from really high-end companies or like really big companies. They're really from like small companies and stuff like that, where you don't really know what you're actually getting. So
a lot
you
of
don't
the
know if
parts
it's
are
going to
off-brand.
perform to like the extent that the graphics card and CPU is coming with. So
essentially pre-built PCs are built for show more than they are for performance, I guess. Well, while they do have some good parts, they're the only good parts they actually have invested in are the parts that everybody looks at normally: CPU, GPU, and all the visuals, right? So you're not getting any of the actual backup power that you need when you're compared to a custom built PC. Not only that, you don't get that same satisfaction as you do when after building a PC.
exactly.
You don't get that feel like, oh yay, I've actually done something, compared to, oh, I just ordered a PC off Amazon. I mean,
Yeah, I mean usually the cases also tend to have bad airflow, and I mean it just doesn't work out well in the end with it.
Yeah. some other small stuff to consider: keyboard, mouse, monitor. Just have a monitor that supports your PC, and have a keyboard and mouse that works. That's really all that matters when it comes to those three.
Yeah, I mean, monitor, if you're gonna go, multiplayer, get a high refresh rate monitor. If you're gonna play like single player games that are, graphics intensive, maybe get a 4K monitor. It really depends on what you want. But I mean,
Yeah.
keyboard and mouse, not too much to say about that.
Yeah.
The mechanical keyboard, definitely something to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, you can choose whichever switches you want, whether it's like, blue, red, brown, but like definitely go with the mechanical. It just feels a lot better.
Yeah. It just helps, with the response times and everything. And also it's easy to clean and maintain.
Also, if you really want like good gaming performance, definitely go with like a wired keyboard over a wireless one. I mean, I have the RK61, which is both wired and wireless, and it's not that bad, but obviously when it's wired, you could see the difference, and the performance is obviously much better. So
yeah,
that's
there's
also
probably
something
less
you should consider.
latency.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not like too noticeable, but like you notice it sometimes here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right, guys?
Yeah,
I mean,
I got nothing
think
else.
that's it from us. If anybody has anything that they'd like to add on, PCs, questions, comments, corrections, whatever it may be, feel free to tell us in the comments on YouTube or, via social media by DMing us or something along those lines. But in the end, stay safe, wear a mask. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next one.